you know, as you can see, especially it's even more evident at Vance, but I'm sure at your properties it's probably like this at one point or another, where you have that cantilevered bank hanging over. Then you get those really wet, saturated soils heavier, wash out the toe, and
falls.
you know, I'm sort of telling you guys what you already know, but we've kind of corroborated that through some of the observations we made. So as far as the temporary stabilization we're doing down there, it of course involves the rock, like Kelly said, that's very sizable, 20 to 24 inch rock. These aren't arbitrarily sized rocks. They're sized based on the velocity and the shear of the water that we're seeing. The thickness of that rock, in other words, the blanket that we're going to be getting of that rock is going to be 3 feet thick with the 24 inch rock, so it's very substantial. The height of that stabilization is also something that's of note, and Mr. Cox and I were talking about some of the video that he shot of some of the recent high waters, and to give you an idea of the height to which that stabilization is going to go, you can check out his video, and we're going up to that height, and depending on the elevation of the timing of when you shot that video, it's either 1 or 2 feet above that. So that should give you some perspective, and you know, you can check out his YouTubes for that information.
Do you want to say the 2 dates you thought that they were too?
His video was from May the 7th. The May the 8th event was slightly larger.
Yeah, I have May 7th and May 8th, and I'm going to give him a copy. I'm going to give him our DVD that we had. Should have all that on there, plus a bunch more. So you can look at it again.
To be able to see some, you know,
but
put some pictures to the numbers, but we our design is sized for slightly larger than the May 8th event, which was larger than the May 7th. So that should give you some perspective on the height of it.
I filmed both days.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the May 8th.
Right.
But that
what is
that height is approximately 7 feet. Okay, that's what you're about to ask.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. So.
Getting higher. Whenever we walk, we're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, It's, you know, it changes daily, I suppose, but you can expect to see, you know, at least 7 feet of height in there. Having said that, you know, there's that event is picked based on the probability that you're going to be seeing that kind of flood event. There's definitely the possibility that you're going to experience a catastrophic flood that's going to exceed that, and therefore submerge the temporary stabilization. We understand that. That's definitely a possibility, but I want you to be assured that the design event that we're sizing for is the more likely event that you're going to see, and because it is a temporary measure, that's what the design is sized for. And it's no small event. It's some serious stress that comes through there. And even if it is submerged, there is still value to the weight of the rock against that toe to prevent one of the major failure mechanisms. And that, combined with efficient drainage from the top, should give you some good protection to buy us plenty of time to be able to get in a long-term fix there. We can look at some of the plans. They're, plans can be a bit cryptic if you're not used to looking at them, but here are your homes here. And we can see here the stabilization that we're talking about. And feel free to come up and get in close so you can scoot around on that.
I'm going to sit up now. What are we looking at now?
Yeah, I can sit down too. So what we're looking at here is from above. I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify, but clearly we're looking at plan view from above, and here we're looking at a cross section, which is if you were standing down in the stream and you're looking down actually in this case it's looking up the stream, and so you could be standing down here on the bank in the middle of the stream and looking upstream, and that's what you would see. So what we're talking about here, this is the rock that Kelly was talking about, this 3 foot of 2 foot diameter stone. Underneath that is a bedding stone, and in this case it's going to be the gravel that you see out there in the stream, and that provides the function of if you were to put, for example, a very large 2 foot diameter stone on some bare soil, it would have the tendency to sink. Now we have some really stiff soil out there, so it's not as great a concern, but the general function of a bedding layer is it's a smaller stone that sits underneath the larger stone and provides some support so that that stone doesn't sink into the soil, or likewise the soil doesn't migrate up through the stone. So that's the general gist of what you're seeing there. And the length that we have shown here is according to a survey that we did I suppose now 3 weeks ago, which is frankly a pretty fast track that we would have a survey and have plans and be sitting here talking about construction happening in the span of 3 weeks. This doesn't normally happen. But then again, we don't normally have a survey that 3 weeks later changes. So I say that to say that what we're seeing here looks somewhat different than it did 3 weeks ago. MSD recognizes this, and they've got provisions in this contract with the guys that are going to be out there building it, that there can be adjustments made to fit the situation as it stands. So what you're seeing here, I say that to say what you're seeing here may vary somewhat from what's going to be done, but it's only going to be more. It's not going to be less. So I want you to understand that we recognize that this thing is actively failing, and we're going to be making some field adjustments to adjust for that. So as far as your property goes, this is what we're looking at. And I guess with that, I mean, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have on anything. I'm not sure. I kind of went through that a little quickly, but it's fairly simple.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say on your left there.
On my left here? This side?
Actually, no, on your...
Oh, I guess as I'm saying this left.
Yeah.
This left.
The corner of the main fix there, that right there, what's that?
Okay. The cross sections represent sort of the bulk of this here.
Right.
This lead-in is a transitional piece of rock, or mound of rock, really, that provides some a transition point to prevent the flows from undercutting or circling around. The way this is it's flat. It's against the grade of the stream, and in here is where you start getting the slope up.
Right.
Okay. So they call it like an apron is how they the slang for that, but a flat blanket of stone that's also 3 feet thick that just transitions from what's undisturbed up into the fix.
It's just so the water doesn't slam into the stone that you just put in. It kind of gradually lets it kind of go. Just less energy, means less erosion.
Right.
What is the subsystem underneath the creek? Is it rock or is it more soil or what is it?
Well, we've got borings that we did up here in your yard, but during the construction, we're actually going to be doing some test pitting since we have the equipment down into the stream, and we're going to be digging down to determine just what that is. Some of this recent event that occurred, you can see that it pulled up some of that gravel, and it appears, at least in a couple of the pools there, that there's some clay down in the bottom of that system, which frankly surprised me. We expected a larger depth of gravel in there, but that's sort of just a one snapshot thing. When we get in there and do the fix, we're going to be pulling some of the equipment away to do some of these test pits just to get a better grip on exactly what's going on down here. So the answer, I guess, to your question is I don't really know
We'll
at this
find out.
point. But yeah, we're going to find out. That's on the docket.
On either side of the project,
Either
do
end.
you in the other projects you've done like this, have you seen any sort of impact on, the ends or the borders of the temporary fixes?
Yeah, the question with these type of jobs is always where do you stop? And yes, I mean, to be frank, there can sometimes be some erosion at the either end of the stone blanket. So that's an understood fact. But the deal is that we're trying to extend this to the point where we can get to a safe distance away from the built environment for the temporary fix. When we get into the long-term fix, then that's going to become a particularly important issue, is where do we take this fix to, where do we start it, where do we end it. The idea here is that we want to address the most critical areas right now and ensure that we're going to get some stability there and buy us some time to make some of those decisions as far as where this thing needs to go. I mean, ideally, if this were, we'd love to be able to just go right out and do the long-term fix and bring in as much material as we need, but we don't want to treat this like a sandbox where we're just sort of figuring things out as we go. We want to put some careful thought into it and get you something that's going to provide some long-term stability and also keep MSD from having to come back in here every other